Hello and welcome. My name is Danielle, and I'm an ambassador with Rada Publishing House. Today, we have a very special guest with us, Michael Barrios. He is a client of Maya and a contributing writer in the upcoming book, Infinite Cosmic Records, Sacred Doorways to Healing and Remembering, a book of healing by Maya Versanilla, aka Maya the Shaman. And I'd like to actually congratulate you, Michael, as you've been chosen to contribute your story and your sessions with Maya. For those of you who don't know, Maya is the original creatrix of Infinite Cosmic Records, which is a powerful healing method that stems from the Lemurian code healing, which is also a Maya's original modality. The book itself, Infinite Cosmic Records, Stories to Healing and Remembering, is produced and published by Rada Publishing House. But before we get started with the interview, Michael, I'd like to go over with everyone what exactly Infinite Cosmic Records is, because it's so much more than just any typical healing method. It's to give you an idea, it's a timeline where you can go into many doorways because it is an infinite cosmic realm. With that being said, a lot of people call it a cross, like a hybrid of a past life regression, Akashic records, and if, of course, you're familiar with Dolores Cannon, that might give you a little bit more insights. Others also say that it's shadow work, inner child work, or ancestral lineage inner work. And according to Maya, it really just all depends upon the client's intention that is brought forth into the session. Maya has an interesting method that also can bring you to other realms, which is pretty phenomenal because in some cases you can even go to another planet or maybe perhaps an era. So it really just depends on your intention and how you move forward within the session. And sometimes your spirit guides can even show up. Other people like to call it a bit of an ayahuasca journey simply because you do release and you purge, which is pretty phenomenal. I did myself have a session and I really enjoyed the information that was brought forth, and it was very unique. The timeline I went to was in a medieval era, but never got a chance to do the planets, so maybe we'll do another one sometime. In the upcoming book, Michael, I'm really excited to have you here because you are a very unique, special client of Maya's. You have had several sessions that I'm sure you can share a lot of information on today. So we're so happy to hear about that, and welcome. And before we dive into the doorways, can you share with us what your intention was going into one of the sessions that you'd like to share?
Yeah, thank you, Danielle. So going into, I guess, my first session and all the other sessions after that was why I had so much pain with my partner, but so much love. And it was such a crazy polarity because it kind of made we have a child together, and it kind of made our relationship and our professional lives, it brought it to a halt. So that was my main intention, was to be able to learn why and what I could do, essentially.
That's beautiful. And I love that you're willing to dive into that, because sometimes when we dive into pain, there's a lot of things that we don't know that are there, and it's like multiple layers.
Mhm.
So when you went into, I'm not sure which session you want to share, but how many doorways have you been through?
I write about 7 doorways in the book.
Beautiful.
But after writing my chapter, I went through a couple more. So, but 7 is the one that I wrote in the book.
Okay.
Yep.
That's amazing. Can you share with us what the doorways look like, and a little bit about you can actually, if you'd like to share with us about all 7, I'd be curious to hear a little bit about each.
Yeah, I'll go through them as quick as possible. But I loved how in the beginning you said that I had a little bit of everything from the shadow work to the inner child work to the generational trauma work, and actually saw myself off of Earth. So
Wow.
yeah, so it was a little bit of all of it. So the first door I went to was a gold door. Um, and when Maya brings me through I guess, her protocol, there's usually three doors that I see,
Mhm.
and then I'll choose the door that calls me. So that first door was gold. Um, or sorry, the first door was a wooden door with a slight red hue.
Okay.
And and going through that um, door, I think that one was the very first door, but it was I didn't know what I was getting into. It was so what happened was it was like in the medieval times, and it was just slowly. I could slowly see what it looked like.
Mhm.
It was as if the scenery started at one point, and then it started expanding.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Um, and so it was like a medieval party, and I actually saw my partner there, and but she was talking to or was surrounded by a group of guys who obviously found her very attractive. And what happens is she ends up with me. We run into the woods. um, in the book I describe what happens, and it for essentially we had a great time. And then we appeared in the house, and I felt that she was pregnant. But those five guys came in, killed me, and raped her. And that was my first door, which was pretty
Intense.
intense. Um, but what I got out of that door was what was going on in my life was no matter what I do to try to help her or whatever, I essentially I have to allow her to heal herself. And I'm a coach by trade, and anything that I say to her may sound like I'm coaching. It's just I've been doing it for so long. But what I got out of that door was essentially I should not chase. I shouldn't try to control, um, because in the end, it's not going to fare well for me or her.
Mhm.
And that was you'll hear through these next doors. It's a common theme of trying to save or kind of pushing towards her rather than just living, just
Yeah.
letting things happen the way it's meant to happen. We all have our own stories. So that was door one. Um, Door two, so I walk out, Maya prompts me to walk out, and I see another group of three doors. And door number two has a gold knob with moss covering the door. Um, And with that one, I walk in, and I mean, for most of the sceneries for all my doors were very vivid with specific colors that pertain to nature. So
Okay.
this one, I saw a great sky, a blue sky, and kind of golden wheat fields, and but within that door, I felt so good walking in, and then anxiety set in,
Mm.
and it felt so scary.
Wow.
So scary that I told Maya that I didn't want to keep going through this door. Um, but I mean, the door prior, I was kind of scared of what was going to happen next.
Right.
So I just booked it out of there, and and I know I need to visit that door. Um, and so that would be another session with Maya. But I knew that that fear, that anxiety is a big thing.
Mhm.
Um, and now today I know what happened and why that happened. And that was more of that shadow work that had to be worked on.
Yeah.
And I feel that the soul or the spirit won't allow you to kind of go through something if you can't handle it. And that's what I think what happened to me. And I just booked it out of that door. So the last door for that session with Maya was a metal door. Um, and with that, it going through that metal door, um, it was just another beautiful landscape. And it was, to me, when I went in there, I knew what it was. It was Maharlika in the Philippines.
Oh,
Um, and it, I was just in awe of the green grass, the rolling hills, um, and then off in the distance you could see the ocean, and as it meets the sky, and the scenery is just super vivid, and I feel like all of us have an affinity to nature,
mhm.
but and so in that doorway, um, I saw a dragon in the sky, and I had some sort of friendship with the dragon, um, but it was just watching it, and it actually turned out to be my partner Angela once more in her dragon form. And the crazy thing is that Angela works with another practitioner, and in her past life she was an actual dragon. So as crazy as that sounds, that's how it was. And
Wow.
I can't describe why that happens, but essentially she was doing her thing, and that's basically what it was just nature and watching her in her powerful self, because uh, I feel like she doesn't really understand her true power, and me trying to show her her true power is more like pushing her away again. So
Wow.
um, those were the three doors for the first session. And then the following session, um, it was just one door. I can't remember. For some reason, I didn't write down what the door looked like,
Mhm.
but it was a long journey.
Oh, wow.
It was, I feel like it was in Maharlika, but it was just a different scenery. I started up on a mountain and walked down into a forest, and throughout the whole journey that door, there was so many different kind of animals and
Wow.
creatures. There was a deer with the face of Angela. There was a big spider's web. I turned into an eagle. I was running through green grass, and I felt like as if there's nothing stopping me.
Wow.
Um, I get sucked down into a whirlpool, um, and a couple of other things. But basically, in the book, I write down the symbolism and what it meant to me, or what resonated with me with those symbols. I mean, there you could obviously look online and see what it means for a lot of other people, but essentially Maya helped me understand what those meant for me, and it brought so much clarity in my life.
Wow.
And understanding is one thing,
Mm.
but using it in my relationship um, is that wisdom, and so applying it is the harder part. Um, but I'm the type of person who just really wants to to understand.
Mhm.
Um, and 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 so my next session after that, I had the three doors, and the first one was a gold door, and within that gold door, another scenery of green rolling hills, and there were children playing,
Mm.
and those children, I mean, I feel like I'm still a child, um, and so they're playing with blocks, and um, during that or during all the journeys, Maya will talk me through certain things, like ask them questions. And one question that Maya asked me to ask was if they have a message for me. And so the kids just sat me down and asked me to play with them,
Aw.
and they asked me to build a castle. And these were just regular blocks, like square blocks. Um, so I couldn't really, and there's only like four or five of them. And I'm like, a castle? How can I build a castle? All I did was stack it up. But when I did stack it up, they were so like floored. They loved it. And they were like, it's a magic castle.
Aw.
And that made me feel so good inside. Before we started recording, we spoke about oh, it's I lost it, but essentially it was allowing me to, it was, I'm so much in my left side brain, that logical side, because of my coaching style. And I love going to school. I love learning. But in these last years, I've been getting and I've been getting into energy healing and spiritual development. And that requires you to hop onto the right side brain, where the intuitive, the creative, the feminine is. And so going through that door, it allowed me to, or gave me permission to just be a kid. It doesn't matter how it looks, how simple something is. It could be so profound to the people around you.
Yeah.
And I just have to just do, just go with my intuition, be creative. It doesn't matter about the process. It just matters on how it feels.
Right.
And
Exactly.
so that door was very profound, because after that I started painting.
Oh.
And the thing is, I do mandala work, but I was so scared in the very beginning to put anything on paper, even though no one's going to see it. And so that alone told me, hey, like there's a big block, a huge block. And so um, that spurred me on to doing a little bit more of my inner child work, and loving my inner child a little bit more, and listening
Mhm.
to, if he wants to play, but I personally want to do more work, I should just play, because uh, I'm I need to balance out. We all need to
Mhm.
find balance. We all want harmony, but the things that get us into harmony are usually the stuff that's a little bit more harder for us, because we're so
Mhm.
used to one way.
Right.
And so then I walk out of that door, and then she prompts me for another round of 3 doors. The door I pick is a circular wooden door, and I remember the weight of that door. It was solid. It was just like, okay, it needs a little bit more pushing open. Um, and so in that door, uh, instead of it being like a vivid green and blue or nature, um, it was dark and gloomy,
Oh.
and the landscape looked like there was fires that rolled through there. And I remember seeing just one burnt tree, so all the leaves were burnt off, and it was gnarly. And then there was a knight on a horse, and and my whole body felt kind of not there.
Mhm.
Um, And so Maya prompts me on questions. And what I got out of there was, I was a king. That was my kingdom.
Wow.
I was beheaded. And the knight that was there was one of my knights. And he told me that I was a great king,
Oh.
and that they had a group of men and knights, I guess, and they would follow me to the ends of the earth, that they would do whatever I would say, because they had such strong belief. But essentially we lost, and I left a whole kingdom. And that was what Maya told me, was a big karmic debt, that I let a lot of people down, because back then, I guess, the people of a kingdom looked towards the king for everything. The king was there to protect them. The king was there to make sure they got food. The king was there for anything that they needed, essentially. And now that there is no more king, and also within that timeline, I had this feeling inside that I lost my family.
Mm.
And so there's all these reoccurring themes because for me, and I think for most of us, even though we know a bit of information that will get us forward, there's always going to be that resistance
Yeah.
because we have to change our old kind of programming, what we learned from other people that wasn't ours.
That's so well said. Gosh, you're hitting a lot of really good notes here. People are going to learn so much by hearing your doorways and reading the book. But can please continue.
Thank you. That's why I wanted to write this, was at least it could help people kind of see the themes that play out in their lives, because there's patterns here and we just have to be conscious and say, oh, this keeps happening. The lowest common denominator is me.
Right.
What is it that I'm missing? So yeah, after that door, that kind of brought me down a little bit, but to feel that part of me, because I strongly believe that I am in a leadership role. I am a coach and I see a lot of people, and it's up to me they see me for a specific thing, and I want to do my best to be able to get them to where they want. And what my coaching looks like now is more of helping people connect with themselves, and so that they could understand how to put their bodies back together, how to get their lives back together, how to connect with themselves so they know that their choices are their choices and not someone else's choices.
Right.
And that kind of makes us kind of stuck in our lives if we're listening to what other people are telling us to do and we're not aligned with that. So, I mean, that was another theme going streaming through all of these doorways, was one, not to control another person. Two, to just, there's chaos around us, but we have to understand who we are and be grounded in ourselves and trust the process. Because the more we push, the more we push the things that we want away. And so that was, I mean, there's all these light bulbs going off every single time I'm uh, I'm going through these sessions with Maya. And so the last door I talk about in the book is a large barn door with garlands and with lilies. And this one was definitely a psychedelic trip. It was it like, I mean, again, I'm in a very green slash seascape, so I could see the ocean. Um, Angela as the dragon, my partner's there once again. And she's flying around and I'm just sitting on the grass watching, and then she morphs back into herself that I know of her today. And our dream together is to own a farm, and it's because we're both holistic practitioners, and we know that the land, we're only as healthy as the land is, as Mother Earth is. And if we have a plot of land that is healthy and vibrant, we could heal as many people as, or we could heal a lot of people if we bring them there, teach them about connection with themselves. So in this doorway, I mean, that's what I feel. I'm like, oh, this feels so good. This is exactly what we are dreaming, wanting. And I'm a family man. So I have one son, and we always talk about having another child. And so, but we know not to have a child during a time where we're so disconnected from ourselves and disconnected from our actual relationship, our partnership. And so, but in this doorway, I see her barefoot, pregnant, happy, and she's still exuding that dragon power. And I found that so beautiful. Then I start to float up, and I'm like, okay, this is cool. And I'm floating up, and I'm going into outer space. And so there's darkness, and then I see all these. Maya says well, the way I described it was kind of like bubbles, but I could see things inside those bubbles. And so I assumed, or I felt, that they were spirits or people just floating around or about to be born, I guess. And so all these, when I'm watching these things, I'm hearing the process in my head, kind of like a narration or a feeling or a knowing what these mean, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it was explained to me, but it was just like, I know that this is when I chose to come to Earth.
Oh, wow.
And the message was, I chose this life. I chose the hardships that I will go through, and that I shouldn't fear them. And so I mean, if anyone goes through a relationship and they have a child, or they've had a deep connection and it feels like everything's going to end, and it feels like your work is suffering, it feels like all the other relationships in your life is suffering because you don't feel connected with yourself, you don't feel healthy, you don't feel strong, you don't feel like you're doing the things that you're meant to do. That because when I reached out to Maya, that's how I felt.
Wow.
And so seeing this and knowing why I chose to come here and literally go through what I'm going through then and now, that brought me a little bit more peace.
Wow.
And I think, that was another reason why I kept seeing Maya, was because I didn't really feel that peace. I got a lot of information, I got a lot of tools, but I wasn't trusting the process. And so this last door was so fitting because it just, it showed me what can happen if I trusted the process. And it's ultimately just do what you love. Don't force people to see you the way you want them to see you, but stand in your truth. And as a man, to hold space for your woman or your partner, because men truly want to help, but their style of helping is usually telling and not allowing the infinite wisdom that is their partner, or the infinite wisdom of the feminine, and that their emotions are there because, I mean, we're speaking about the left side and the right hemispheres of the brain. That's 50-50. And so the feminine is working off of, and so we could go a little bit into, I guess, physiology or biology, where estrogen is makes women more emotional, right? Because we can't see all the energies, just like a dog could hear and smell and maybe see things at different frequencies.
Right.
But humans can't. That's the same thing the with a woman compared to a man. A man is going to have more testosterone. That is the logic side of the brain. Or when testosterone is released, we think we're more logical. But when it's in a relationship, when the man is thinking, I don't understand why she's doing this or saying this, it's because he's not looking at the emotional side, or he doesn't understand what she's feeling. So he thinks it's illogical for her to choose. This is how I felt was, doesn't she know that I love her? Like, I say it all the time, but yet she's saying these things as if I don't. We get into arguments because I thought that it's in plain sight why X, Y, and Z is happening, but she feels like she doesn't know. And that's just a long way of saying it is up to me to just hold space no matter what's going on, because the end game is we just want to be partners. We just want to live the life that we want to live, And it's no use of me trying to explain to her or trying to show her what is the right way or the wrong way. It's just to allow her to experience it, and I'm experiencing it with her. And like for me, like not to teach or coach, I don't need to put on that hat all the time.
Right.
Because that's what I do for a living. It's like, I don't know if you know any chefs or cooks where they'll cook all day and not want to cook at home. I worked as a cook for a long time or for a little bit, and you kind of get burnt out if you're cooking all the time. And so if I'm coaching all the time and I'm coaching my partner, she didn't get with me because she wanted to get coached. She got with me because our core values aligned, and there was a lot of love between us. But with that love, we're all mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
We're mirrors to each other. So we triggered each other left and right so that we could pull out the things that we need to work on individually. And so, I mean, those are all the doors that I spoke about in the book. And
Wow. Oh my gosh.
it was a very profound experience.
Michael, thank you so much. You have such an amazing way of explaining this information to people who either understand it or don't. So thank you for that. And honestly, everything you've said, I completely relate to, because a lot of the things that I was experiencing too, even down to being just the simplicity of a message from a child saying play. I feel in order to be closest to creator, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, it's in a way, it's very simple. And I think we overcomplicate things. And I love that you brought that up. And I totally love that. And wow, I'm just blown away by all the inner work you've done. I'm so honored and I'm proud of you as a person,
Thank you so much.
because we as the divine feminine, we when you do this type of work, we are drawn to having the divine masculine do the same in return, because there's a lot of women right now working, and we're the rise of the divine feminine. So it's just such an honor to be able to know there are men out there doing that,
Oh
because
yeah.
we are craving that, or as a society, we need everyone to rise. So thank you. And then how was it working with Maya directly as a facilitator? What is it like having her help you during a session?
I mean, it was so beautiful. That just from the get-go, she made me feel heard, seen, and
Oh,
loved. Those are the core things that everybody wants.
mhm.
And so that allowed me to open myself up and get myself out of that left side brain. And and the guidance was, I mean, it was so much wisdom behind Maya's words. And so, I mean, it was amazing.
I love that. And how was it working with Rada Publishing House as you were writing your chapter?
I loved it. I was scared to write, and they made it super easy
Mm.
um, because I was able to turn in some stuff, and I got the suggestions, and it just made everything seamless. And when it was all done, I was like, oh, I felt accepted and loved, essentially. Um, and so if anyone wants to collaborate with Rada Publishing House, it's amazing experience
Oh,
for the very beginners like myself.
I love that. I love how you were able to really, and I get a good sense that as you were going through the healing, you've been able to balance that left and the right to have that equilibrium for yourself, and that's amazing. I bet there's a lot of really good ways of how you explained it in the book. So I'm excited for people to read your chapter, because I'm sure there's a lot of wisdom, a unique perspective to be able to explain something like this in a way that you have to think metaphorically or philosophically in some cases.
Yes, definitely.
Pull in all these different parts of yourself, and you've definitely done the work to be able to hone that in. So I'm super excited to read your chapter. It's going to be amazing, I know.
Thank you.
Yeah. And lastly, I just want to thank you so much for all your time and energy. And would you recommend the session with Infinite Cosmic Records to anyone in general, or how do you feel? Who do you think would benefit from this?
I think everyone. I think as long as you could be skeptical, but you just have to be open,
Yep.
and that alone is going to make. I mean, just the coaching alone that is going to help you through Maya's like wisdom, through meeting so many people, going through so many doors. She's gonna find something that resonates with everyone, and you're gonna leave feeling a little bit more aligned with yourself and have a little bit of your voice back.
Ah, I love that. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Michael. I'm going to be
Thank
sure
you.
to post all your information down below where they can contact you, and, of course, the book and how they can contact Maya directly. And I wish you all the best on your journey.
Thank you so much, Danielle. This was fun.
It is fun. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.